If you lose, you won and only. There's always room here for the lonely, to watch your broken dreams dancing out of.
I find upside down cakes to be so beautiful, and this caramel pecan upside down cake is no exception. This cake has the most tender vanilla crumb, and then the caramel pecan topping on top is an absolute delight. So let's make it together today. The first step to making this amazing cake is to make the caramel pecan topping. And so into a saucepan, we're going to combine light brown sugar, butter, pecans, as well as honey. You can substitute the honey with corn syrup if you have that on hand. And then we're just going to warm everything together on a burner until it is nice and well combined and homogeneous. You want this mixture to be nice and bubbly before you take it off the burner. And now we're going to pour our entire delicious caramel pecan topping into our floured and greased pan and then let it sit aside so that it can harden. In the meantime, we are going to work on our amazing vanilla cake batter, and so into a bowl we are going to combine our butter as well as our white granulated sugar until it is nicely combined. And then to this mixture we are going to add our eggs one at a time along with our vanilla extract, and once again beat everything together until it is homogeneous and light and fluffy, because this leads to the most tender and delicious crumb to your cake. The last and most important wet ingredient I always add to my cakes is yogurt. And so I always use this yogurt whenever I'm baking because it makes the most soft, amazing, tender cakes of your dreams. Once we add the yogurt, we are just going to combine everything together, and then finally we are going to add all of our dry ingredients, which I do like to pre-mix. So this includes the flour, the salt, the baking powder, and the baking soda. At this point, it's very important to make sure that you do not overmix the batter because that will lead to a tough and not so tender cake. And so what I like to do is switch over to a spatula and use that to combine everything until there are no more streaks of flour. Now we are going to pour all of our delicious vanilla cake batter on top of the caramel pecan layer. And at this point, the caramel pecan layer is hard, and so there will be no mixing. And now we are going to bake this cake at 350 for 30 to 35 minutes. Make sure you don't overbake the cake because again, we want to make sure that we maintain that amazing moist flavor that we have in this cake. Once the cake is fully cooled, remove it from the pan, and then after that just pull off the parchment paper because this allows for easy cleanup and also makes the caramel topping not stick to the pan. And now tell me, is this not the most beautiful cake you've ever seen? I literally stood there after making this cake and was just admiring its beauty and taking it all in.
Welcome to episode 1 of our new Ramadan series called What's for Iftar. This is where we show you 10 must-try recipes that will make your friends and family fall in love with you this Ramadan. To kick off this series, we're starting off with our cheesy butter chicken bread rolls. These were such a hit in my house and my dad's literally been begging me to make them again. To make your bread rolls pillowy and soft, you're going to start off with making a tangzhong, which is just a Chinese brew. After, you're going to bloom your yeast in a bowl with some warm milk and sugar. Then you're going to add the tangzhong that you made earlier and your yeast mixture into a bowl with some flour, salt, butter, milk and eggs. I chose to use a stand mixer, but you can also do so by hand, and I've done so plenty of times. Once done, cover your dough and leave in a warm place for 30 minutes to an hour, and then we are moving on to my favorite part, the butter chicken. And I know some of you are probably thinking, why not just have butter chicken for iftar? Well, why not have something that's elevated? To make your butter chicken, you're going to saute some onions in a pan with your seasonings, which are in the caption below. If I didn't mention before, hi, my name's Amir and I run this page with my sister JJ. At this point, JJ also wanted to add Maggi, but I told her we're not making jollof rice, so it's a no from me. After frying your onions, garlic and seasonings with your cashews in a pan, you're going to lower your heat and add some passata and some cream. I kid you not, the smells coming from this pan made my stomach grumble, and we weren't even fasting that day. Blend your sauce to get a smooth consistency and then add back into a pan with some butter. Allow your sauce to cook fully before adding on top of a layer of cheese when filling your rolls. If you don't want this to turn out a disaster, make sure to pinch in your dough tightly to seal in your filling. When out of the oven, garnish with some garlic butter and ask your family if they're in love with you after trying.
Today we're making kanafa, and I'm so excited because it's one of my all-time favorites, and I know a lot of you guys have been waiting on it, so let's get started. We're going to begin by mixing together all of our ingredients into our bowl except for our water, and we're going to mix it together with our hands until it's a coarse texture. Then we're going to add in our water and knead it until it looks something like this. Then we're going to actually knead it for about 10 minutes or until it's as smooth as you can get it, and then we're going to let it rest for 15 minutes. Roll it out, and then we're going to add it to a large baking tray, and then I preheated my oven to 550, and then I turned it off, and then I let it bake in the oven for 30 minutes off of the residual heat, and then I pulsed it once it was cool out of the oven like so. And now here I am just mixing together our cheese mixture, and then I grabbed an 8-inch pan, I added our ghee, our kanafa dye, as well as 3 cups of our dough mixture, and I pressed it down as best as I could, and then I baked it in the oven at 400 degrees for about 20 minutes. Then I took it out of the oven and I let it cool down for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then I added a layer of ricotta cheese as well as our cheese mixture, and I baked at 350 for another 20 minutes. Once the cheese was beautifully melted, I went ahead and loosened up the sides a little bit, I flipped it and I drenched it in simple syrup, topped it with some pistachios, and you're done.
I no longer live near a Din Tai Fung, so when I get a craving for those tender wontons and a spicy and tangy sauce, I have to make them at home. So here's how I make mine. Season half a pound of ground chicken with soy sauce, sesame oil, chicken bouillon, white pepper, salt, a quarter of a leek, and some ginger. I love a strong ginger taste, so I used minced ginger, but for a more subtle taste, you can use grated ginger. You'll then add a teaspoon of filling to a wonton wrapper, wet the top edges with water, then fold the wrapper over to form a triangle, and press the sides to seal the wonton. Then add a dab of water to one corner and bring the other corner over to meet it. For the sauce, to a bowl add 1 teaspoon chili flakes, a teaspoon of gochugaru, a teaspoon of Laugen Mai chili crisp, half a teaspoon of grated garlic, and a 1/4 teaspoon of Chinese 5-spice. Then heat 3 tablespoons of frying oil to 350 degrees and pour it over. Then add 1 teaspoon of sugar, a tablespoon of rice vinegar, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, a teaspoon of chicken bouillon, and a tablespoon of water, and that's our sauce. Bring a large pot of water to a boil and add in the wontons and cook them for 4 to 5 minutes. I always check mine with a meat thermometer to ensure their doneness. Then remove them from the pan and place the wontons in a serving bowl. Top with the chili sauce, and finish with green onion.
This is my go-to salted caramel recipe that's super easy and requires no candy thermometer. So I start by adding my sugar and water to my pan and put it over medium heat, and you don't want to stir it at this point, you just have to resist the urge. You can swirl around the water a bit just to get it all over the sugar, but you really don't want to stir it. Stirring it before the sugar and water melt together will cause crystals and you'll just have a mess. Once all the sugar has melted, it'll start to look like this and be very bubbly, and you might get some crystallization on the side, which you can just brush off with a wet pastry brush. And at this point you can swirl around your pan a bit just to promote an even caramelization. And you just continue to let the sugar cook until it's this nice dark iced tea color. And I really like making my caramel in a light colored pot so you can see the color change really easily. Once you're at the desired color, you just remove the caramel from the heat and you add in your room temperature butter and then your room temperature cream. And you just want to be a little careful when adding these because there could be some vigorous bubbling, but the room temp ingredients helps with that a lot. Then I just return the caramel to medium heat for about 2 to 3 minutes to bubble all together. And then I turn it off and add our salt and vanilla, and that's it. It may seem a touch thin at this point, but as it cools, it thickens up quite a bit. Once it's cooled off a bit, I just store it in a jar and it's all ready to go.
Hey y'all, it's breakfast week, brunch edition. Next up, we have some honey and butter pull apart. Let's get into this recipe. So we're going to start off making the dough for our rolls, which is fairly similar to my original fluffy rolls recipe. You're going to combine and mix together 2 1/4 cup of flour and a tablespoon of sugar. Once that is combined, you're going to add 1 egg, 2 tablespoons of honey, 2 tablespoons of softened salted butter, and your yeast mixture, which is a 1/2 cup of warm water, a teaspoon and a half of yeast, and a tablespoon of salt. The very last thing I forgot to add was tangjong because I forgot to add it. Make sure y'all watch my fluffy rolls for the tangjong recipe. You're going to knead the dough with your hands or with a stand mixer for 8 minutes, 10 minutes max. If you use the stand mixer, you'll move it to a floured surface and knead it by hand for 1 minute. 1 minute exact. Put it into a greased bowl, cover, and let it rise until it doubles in size. Once it has, you're going to move it onto a floured surface again and knead it for only 30 seconds. After the 30 seconds is up, that's when we're going to start shaping our little balls. Using this recipe, you should get 10 about equal sized balls. I did measure mine for accuracy and they rounded between 60 and 65 grams each. Into your pan, I used a cast iron skillet. You're going to spray it with some nonstick spray. Organize the rolls into your pan, cover it, and let it double in size. Once it's doubled in size, we're going to put some egg wash all over each of the rolls. My egg wash was eggs and milk. When they come out, put more honey butter on top and a lot of plain butter. And y'all got y'all honey and butter pull apart for part 5 breakfast series, brunch edition. Like, comment, share, add it to your favorites. Do what you gotta do to make sure you are back here tomorrow. Okay, bye!
If you're craving ravioli but you don't want to make it from scratch, the next best thing to do is make these stuffed ricotta pasta shells. Start by browning some ground beef, then add in yellow onion, minced garlic, thyme, red pepper flakes, and marinara sauce. Pour in some water, add salt and pepper to taste, then let this simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes. Add some chopped mushrooms to a hot pan, let all the water evaporate, then pour in some olive oil, minced garlic, and salt. Saute spinach and some olive oil, add lemon juice and salt, then you can work on your filling, which is just 1 egg whisked. Add in ricotta, pecorino romano, the cooked mushrooms and spinach, fresh parsley, lemon zest, nutmeg, mozzarella, salt, and pepper. Get that combined, then transfer to a piping bag. Spread marinara sauce on the bottom of a baking dish, then pipe the ricotta mixture into your cooked pasta shells. Lay the stuffed pasta on top, add more marinara, mozzarella, and bake for about 30 minutes. Top it off with more pecorino romano, fresh parsley, and enjoy.